Sex education. Who will teach the children? Who decides when a child is taught sexual education and by whom? Parents attempt to do their best in teaching children right from wrong throughout their impressionable years. This subject has been a source of controversy for many years. For example, it is sometimes suggested that large numbers of parents oppose teaching about sexual orientation, birth control, and abortion in sexual health and education programs. This was clearly not the case in the current study. Indeed, for the grades 9 through 12 level, sexual orientation, along with STD and AIDS prevention, received the highest percentage of support, with 95% of parents indicating that they wanted the topic of sexual orientation addressed in the classroom. That's from McKay 5. On this particular touchy subject, the parent ought to have the right to decide what and when their child learns about this topic. A parent is in control of what goes on in their child's life when with them. When at school, the parents, however, tend to trust in the school system to keep them safe from any harm and misinformation. The information of romantic relationships plays a significant role in healthy adolescent development, particularly in helping youth to understand their own identity and how they relate to others in the world. That's from Resnick 337. Therefore, teachers play an important part in the mentoring process of these students. Also, it is important to note that not every child and/or student will mature physically nor emotionally at the same level or pace. Parents' opinions have been considered in the past. The survey conducted in January and February 1997, 20,000 survey questionnaires were provided to the public schools in 6 communities. Total student population, 26,000. That's from McKay 3. The children took the surveys home to be filled out. Response rate, 6,800 completed. Questionnaires returned 34%. Among the 34% were 78% completed by one parent, 70% females, 8% males, and 22% were completed by both parents together. 4% did not indicate their gender. That's from McKay 4. In that particular survey, the majority of the parents voted thus sexual education should be provided in the schools. Most parents were also in favor of sexual health education that begins in the primary grades and continues through the senior grades of high school. 4. We must remember that this particular study was done over a decade ago. Society today is moving at a significantly faster pace. Perhaps this fact may indicate that children in our schools have had to grow up or mature at a faster rate as well. Parents also pose the question as to what qualifications or training school teachers may or may not have on this subject. There are no state requirement trainings or certifications specific to sexuality education in the public school classrooms. Health teachers are most often given the assignment of delivering sexuality education, and many states' licensing requirements for health teachers specify that prevention of HIV, sexually transmitted infections, and pregnancy are part of their training. Resnick 338. Health teachers and school nurses may tend to have an edge as far as training or qualification with regard to sexuality issues, as they are more likely to be closer to the medical field. All health educators agreed that teaching sexuality education was a standard part of their job, and they were expected to teach it. Other teachers found that they were assigned to teach the sexuality unit or volunteered for it because they were the only ones within their school or district with relevant background or training in a particular curriculum. Resnick 341. There seems to be a need for trained, designated, course-specific sexuality education teachers. Finding from the present study suggests that training programs to prepare sexuality educators are falling short. Even among those with the most common and relevant professional background, i.e., health education, many found their pre-service training was inadequate, while those coming to sexuality education from other disciplines, such as special education or science, typically had no training in this content, methodology, or both. Resnick 342. We are in need for more educators specializing in sexuality education. Possibly there should be 3 distinct levels of sexuality education. Obviously, taking into consideration students' ages and basic collective level of maturity. The first level should begin with the sexuality be the attempt of the nurtures students' familiarity with the feelings, their bodies, and how each individual perceives them. Number 2, implement an additional or follow-up course containing information at the junior high school level. This course might include information regarding feelings, ideas, and ideals entering into puberty and/or adolescence. Certainly, by this age, human body begins to undergo physical and emotional changes, if not upheavals in these areas. Identification of these type feelings may well lay the groundwork for future behaviors. Number 3, an explicit course in sexuality education in high school. Curriculum at this level may include education on physical activity at an adolescent age, emotions with regard to this behavior, as well as consequences for inappropriate sexual behavior. Discussion and education on sexuality transmitted disease, unwanted pregnancy, and emotional backlash should be addressed at this age to promote healthy attitudes toward future relationships. Remember, parents attempt to do their best in teaching children right from wrong throughout their impressionable years. However, the fact is, for most of us, our children will tend to spend as much and more time in school during the year with teaching staff or educators than they do at home. Therefore, the need for qualified, trained educators is paramount in the development of children as far as their ideas and behaviors sexually. Coupled with involved, aware of parenting, and safe and sound sexual identity can be attained. The parents should be aware of the content of all curriculum and educational materials. Parents should be able to preview the teaching platform prior to their children being taught, so as to not conflict with any parent's social, ethnic, or religious beliefs or practices. Also, the parents, after reviewing the course, will have the final decision as to whether the child is ready or not. On this particular subject, the parent ought to have the right to decide what and when their child learns about the topic of sexual education.